Good morning. Hello and welcome, and thank you for joining us today for this NavTour webinar, which is number 17 in our series of webinars. My name is Björn Åkre. I'm with the marketing team in Norway, and I will be your host today for this webinar. First, I will have a quick look at today's agenda. I will have a short introduction, and then we will quickly move over to today's presentation, which is about NavFleet and what's new in the latest release. And it will be held by Jacob Clausen, who's our performance director and managing director for NavTour Denmark. Here at NavTour, we are dedicated to staying in front of the technology and to make life easier for our customers, both on board vessels and onshore, with our integrated maritime technology products and services. The purpose of these webinars is to spread knowledge and ensure that everyone can get the maximum value from NavTour's products. This webinar will be about NavFleet. And NavFleet is our shore-based platform for monitoring, reporting, and performance services for vessels and fleet. NavFleet is one of our two flagship product brands, and the other one is NavStation, which is the voyage planning tool. Today's presentation will take us through the news in the latest version of NavFleet, which is 1.9. First, I will have some housekeeping for this webinar platform. Our platform is called 23.com, and on the right-hand side, you will see there's a chat window where you can drop comments and say hi. There's also a questions tab, and if you post questions in the questions tab, we will be able to bring them up full screen and answer them together after the presentation. There's also a handout, a PDF with product information for NavFleet. So without further delay, I will bring Jacob in on screen.
Yeah, thank you very
Good,
much, Björn.
good morning.
Good morning. Yeah, good morning.
So I'll let you take it from here, and I can bring you up with your presentation. And right,
Excellent.
over to you.
Yeah, so good morning, good day, and good afternoon, everyone. And thanks for joining this webinar about NavFleet release 1.9. Today we'll be covering a number of things. So I'll give a brief introduction of our product portfolio, our new features with regards to NavFleet 1.9 release, covering new EU ETS features, XD limit visualization, ENC online by NAFTA, which is a new service. I'll jump into a product demo to give a more hands-on feeling of what is recent release and available in the product today, and then we will cover the webinar takeaways as a summary of all the above. So let me jump into the intro and into the NAFTA suite. So our product portfolio consists of a shore-based platform, and that is NavFleet. And then on board we have what we call a Nav station, which is also facilitating Nav reporting and digital logs, all hosted on the NavBox. And these are interconnected via our Nav Cloud, our cloud-based solution. The NavBox can also connect up with the ECDIS, so to have seamless exchange of chart data, route exchange, and so on and so forth. We also facilitate by capturing AIS data, and we can also receive other kinds of input like sensor data. In the Noon reporting platform, we have a series of different reports that we are having the crews to report on a daily basis. We are also facilitating some auto population within the forms based on sensor data or AIS data. This is going through what we call a dual layer data validation. So we have built-in validation as you enter the data on board, which will be flagged immediately. Then we have a team of experts to follow up, to rectify and ensure the quality of the data. And then we are feeding that to the verifiers and onwards to emission reporting schemes like IMO DCS and EU MRV. And the EU MRV is of course what is utilized under the EU ETS, and that brings us on to the next point about the EU ETS regulations and associated timeline. So in January 2024, just very recently, the EU emission trading scheme came into force, which is covering the CO2 emissions from all larger ships of 5,000 gross tonnage and above. That is entering EU ports, regardless of the flag. So it's all, say, commercial voyages to and from EU or EEA ports, so European Economical Area. And commercial port calls cover load and discharge of cargo or passengers, but not covering discharge or purpose for stopping only for refueling or exchange of crew. So that is not considered a stop of or port of call. So in 2024, we'll be covering cargo and passenger vessels up to 5,000 gross tonnage, and that will be covering carbon dioxide. And the phase-in is that the share of emissions to be surrendered to the EU is 40% of those emissions. By 2025, this would be phased in with surrendering of 60%. And in 2026, we would be adding also greenhouse gas emissions covering methane and nitrous oxide. And at the same time, it'll ramp up to 100% of emissions that will need to be surrendered under the EU ETS scheme. In 2027, we will also have a phase-in of offshore ships and also offshore general cargo ships of smaller size that is to be decided yet. If we look at the voyages and how much that needs to be surrendered, that covers for non-EU, you could say, or voyages between EU and non-EU ports, 50% of the emissions are to be surrendered. So half of the emissions is considered to be part of the EU ETS scheme and need to be surrendered allowances for those emissions. All the operation within the EU ports is 100% surrendered, and then for voyages between two EU ports, it'll be 100% of the emissions surrendered. And the implication of the voyage of EU ETS on the voyage cost is that the ship owner, so the shipping company is the owner or manager is responsible for surrendering the EU ETS allowances by 30th of September the following year. So in September 2025, you would need to surrender for the 2024 reporting year, and you need to pay the accumulated number of allowances for all the vessels under your responsibility. So the shipping company can also request to reimburse when the operator is paying for the fuel or the ship operation is assumed by another party. And BIMCO has in this regard proposed a number of different clauses, amongst others that propose to reclaim EU ETS costs within first 7 days after each month. If we talk about a time charter, so owners will need to notify the charters in writing of the quantity of the emission allowances for the previous month, and similar clauses for ending as a voyage charter. So about 12,000 vessels will be impacted if we look at the past year for 2023 data. And the voyage cost for an extra EU voyage, if we look at an example of Rotterdam to New York, and estimating of 700 tons of CO2 emitted, then there will be an increment EUA cost related to the voids, and similar for intra voyages where it would be 100%. So what we have done is in the product itself, we have created a new EU ETS dashboard, which is showing the total EUA cost accumulated for all the vessels. It's also possible, of course, to dive into each respective vessel and to see the breakdown. So here we split it up on emissions and EUAs within EU, in and out of EU, and also the emissions outside of EU. And here we can then dive into each of the respective vessels as well. So we have the total EUA allowances within the selected period. So here we are looking at last year. We also have the current EUA spot price. So we have an idea about how does the EUAs convert to a cost. And that is then summarized here. Here we can see each of the allowances. So we can see here there's 0 allowances required, but there are other vessels where there is accumulated EUAs for. We also show the corresponding CO2 emissions, and also the consumptions relating to these. If we look at a specific vessel, so here we're going into the demo vessel 0.04, and we can see the specific EUAs for this vessels, the CO2, the total cost, and we can select a specific voyage. In this case, we see indication of this is an voyage that is to or from an EU port, and we can select by clicking on the checkbox, and we will include that in our statement. When we want to have a statement for a specific selected period, or that could be one or several voyages or legs, we can ask for creation of a EU allowance statement. And a statement could look something like this. So we have a summary in the top, summarizing up the total voyage, the EUA cost. We also have a breakdown showing the CO2, the ETS and scope. Now this is looking at 2023, so it's showing as 0%, and then the EUAs. And going forward, of course, nitric oxide and methane will also be included in sometime in the future. Once you are, on this page, you can also decide to make an export that you can send to the charter to reclaim EUA cost associated with this specific voyage. And the EU allowance statement could look something like this. We also have a possibility to estimate the cost of EUAs for a specific voyage that we are planning. So for that, we require the users to input the arrival and departure port for the voyage itinerary, potentially entering any idling period. So a no-go area, so that could be any time spent in port or anchorage that you want to be included in the estimation, and also something about the loading condition and speed instruction for this specific voyage. And that generates, similar when you press estimate, then that generates the voyage metrics similar to the voyage statement, but this is of course an estimate. Similar here, we get some general details about the voyage, duration, sailing time, the impact on your CI and so forth, and also the ETS cost accumulated and EUAs in total. So for the voyage calculator, we also have an export function. So here you can export this and also use this in say reclaiming cost up front prior to start of the voyage if that is how you have implemented EU ETS within your commercial setup. Another key feature that we have recently released is the XTD limit visualization that provides better insights to the deviation from a given route or passage plan. So the definitions we're looking at is that we have a given route leg here defined, and then we have for each section of the route, we have a XTD limit. In this case, it's illustrated by having two different XTD limits on either side, and then we have the possibility to define an off-track limit, which is where we would like to receive notifications. And this is of course controllable from the settings within NavFleet. And if we look at a given illustration of this, we can see that the XTD limit is varying as function of the route here. So for deep sea operation, we see that we get a very wide XTD, where when we are very close to shore or channel or similar, it's much more narrow. So that is, you could say, dynamically changing as function of the route, as it's given from the route definition itself. The other and last feature we have recently released to market is ENC Online by NavFleet, which delivers updated navigation charts directly within NavFleet. So this is to enhance the shore management capability to grant access to identical official electronic navigable charts that are utilized on board. The key features is that we have weekly updates of the charts available online. We provide peak reports within the charts to get access to crucial chart information. There's of course quite a significant cost reduction benefit involved in serving the charts in an online way. And then we can tailor your subscription to include only the site hydrographic office coverage that you're interested in for your operation. This is a service that is licensed per company, and this is available in 12-month subscription periods only. So this is something that can be accessible to different user levels, so 10, 25, and 50, up to 50 users. So grouped in those categories, and that is a concurrent user, so simultaneous use of or access to the charts. So I'd like to go into a product demo to show some of these features in a live demonstration, and I'll get to that shortly here when I selected the.
I think we have to reshare the screen.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'll stand by and bring it up. There we are. I'll bring you up. There we go.
Yeah, so this is the what we're looking at here is the new EU ETS dashboard. Here we can go to a specific vessel, for instance. Now we're looking at last year where we had some EU voyages, and then we could select one specific, say, period that we want to include. We could also select much more and include and create an EU allowance statement. And once you created a statement, it shows up in the report repository, listing up all the statements created. We can also illustrate the voyage estimator. So this could be going from, say, Rotterdam, taking one big major port, and going to what could it be, Gdansk for that matter. So this is a pretty short voyage within EU. Then we have the possibility to add, say, an idling period. So we say that it would spend in one day, one full day. It could also be that we want to say we include 12 hours of port stay, for instance. And then we also have the possibility to add additional fuel types. So now this is based on what the vessel is consuming as of today. We can also select the price to be included. of course, the speed, we assume that it will be sailing 11 knots in average speed, and it will be sailing at 8-meter draft. Then we can make an estimate quickly based on these inputs. So here we get an estimate for this specific voyage that we can save or we can export, and we can go into the past estimations as well and get a list of any estimations that we have done for previous voyage itineraries. So this is all in all what was shown in the slides just before, and this is how it works in practice. If you see that the boot is not going through the selected area you had planned for, you can also manually enter your distance from say your distance calculation tool used in your voyage planning in general. So here it's calculating 740 nautical miles. So if you want to change that, also that you have the possibility to do so. We could also jump into the ENC online and go to the fleet map, and here we could dive into a specific area to take a brief look at how it generates the chart data underlying here. So we could zoom down to Rotterdam, for instance, one major port here, and then we would simply get an overview of the official chart data readily available. And here, if we right-click, we get a pick report with all the different data points, underlying data points. For example, the light for this specific one, where we can see the color, night light, and the height, and so forth. So all the additional information provided within the chart. All right, that was all that I had to share in the for this live demo. I'll jump back to the presentation. So just to summarize up from the takeaways from this webinar. So first of all, we would be able to offer adapt effortless to the EU ETS with our new dashboards, estimation of allowances, and to generate void statement, helping to collaborate transparently on the cost with between owners and charters. Secondly, we'll be able to boost navigation with the XDD limit visualization to get a quick and visual representation of the cross-track deviation, improving the shore-based decision making. And lastly, we can maximize the value with ENC online in NavFleet. So this is a cost-effective access to electronic charts that eliminates the need for expensive ENC cells that is commonly used today for shore-based solutions. So with that, I would like to jump into our Q&A for any questions that have popped up while presenting here.
Great. Thanks for the presentation. Lots of information, Jacob. And we have had some questions coming in, both in the questions tab and in the chat. We can begin with the questions tab, and I will bring them up. We have one question from Deepak about BIMCO clauses, the EU ETS clauses. Does the 4 EU ETS clauses adopted by BIMCO suffices the requirements for ship owners and charters? Do we need to add an addendum or have an introduction to other sub-clauses in order to comply and keep up with the charters and ship owners, keeping them on the same page with respect to EU ETS emissions clause?
Yeah, I'm maybe not the right expert on the field. I mean, we are of course looking towards the BIMCO, and I'm sure that they've thought about putting up, say, clauses that suffice their requirements. I'm not the expert. I would encourage you to contact BIMCO for getting better insights on this specific matter. as we are not drafting up commercial clauses here from our end. We are the technology provider on this matter.
Thank you. And we have another one for Ajay. At the end of time charter or short voyage, how fast the data can be verified by the verifier?
Yeah, I mean, I guess we cannot talk on behalf of all the verifiers in the field. I mean, today we feed data to mainly to DNV, and we will also be adding a few more verifiers for sending emission data on an ongoing basis. My understanding is that DNV does it within the day, that they have a service for voyage or period verification of data. So you can select, say, a given month or voyage period they would like to have verified and have it verified on demand, and you say returned within the same day. We do our verification of the data on an ongoing basis and seamlessly integrate, pushing that to the verifiers and also updating that on a daily basis. So throughout the voyage, every day, we will review the data. If there are issues, we can correct it together with the crew. So we can ask if there are any issues. We can rectify it, you could say, before you get to the end of the voyage or before you get to the end of the month, where you need to come up with your EUHA statement. And from that, the verifier can, of course, their lead time we can not say something specifically about, but I know DNV is approximately within the same day.
Great, thank you. Another one from Catherine. How do you sell the ENCs per package? World areas, band scales, or separate ENCs?
Yeah, we sell them by each, you could say, hydrographic area. So it can be, you say, by country area, and you can either buy all of them or you can buy specific ones that you decide to have available.
Great, thank you. Another one from Sigurd. He is asking, will the presentation be available to us after the webinar?
Yeah, we can definitely share a presentation.
Yeah, great. And then we have one from, I'll just bring it up, from Andreas. Good day to all and Happy New Year. Just wish to add the questions if NavFleet plans to have any software for Mac OS Apple similar to the Windows software. Not.
I mean, we offered as a web service, so I mean it should be working on any kind of operating system. So it should be, say, independently in terms of PC operating systems. Yeah.
Just bring that up from Itai. What's the source of the bunker consumption figures? Is NavTor an approved verifier?
Great question. I mean, we are not a recognized organization under, say, IMO, DCS or MRV for that matter. So we rely on recognized organizations like DNV or Bureau Veritas or Class NK or similar. So we feed data to the verifiers. We mainly today use known reporting, but we also rely on having more auto population from sensor data going into these aggregate reports that is then fed to the verifiers. So our aim is, of course, to make the submission seamless for the users, so they don't have to spend time in sending, synchronizing data, rectifying data, and so on.
Great, thank you. Another one from Catherine again. Where does the ENCs come from? Which official source?
I mean, we combine a number of different sources. I'm not sure if I should sit here and list up all the different sources. I think we can provide you could say separate information on that, because it varies a little bit from country to country. So we have sourced where we find that we can find it at the best price to provide to the end users without them having to look into each of these. But
All
the
right.
sources I described, I mean, I believe that they are available in within the chart. You can see that where it originates from, what is the source of those for each respective area. So there's quite different pricing depending on which hydrographic area you are looking at.
Thank you. We have another one from Thomas Peterson. Hi, Jacob. Thanks for the presentation. What are the data sources? Noon reports, automatically collected sensor data. You've talked shortly about it earlier, but anything to add?
Yeah, we are kind of in a hybrid. So we are sort of many of our customers are using noon data, but we are facilitating more and more auto population from sensors, meaning that the users on board wouldn't have to do a lot of typing, but everything that we can populate directly from a sensor data source, we would be able to populate that. So we do that independent of which sensor data manufacturer. We have a number of data collection partners that can feed data to our NavBox API, and this is an open format that is available on our website under api.navta.com. You can see the definitions. So we welcome any data collection company that would like to send data to us, and we have quite a we have thousands of nav boxes out sailing. So obviously we have a pretty big number of vessels globally that is utilizing this platform today.
Great. Thank you. We have one question from Jeet. How are you tracking live cost updates on EUA?
I mean, we're having a live feed of the spot price as of today. Of course, it's pretty difficult to say what is the right price, because you can buy EUAs from other companies. So it's of course there's a market cap, but the spot price is what is traded at right now on the European Energy Exchange. But of course, if you accumulate or buy a number of EUAs now and then sell them off later on because you found out that you didn't need it, then you're actually allowed to trade, say, within the cap. And EU has a transaction log, like a bank system, that it captures all transactions between the different companies' holding accounts. So each company has a holding account, and then they at you say at the end of a period, they need to have enough UAs on their holding account to surrender into the to the EU at 30th September the following year.
Thank you. And then we have one question from Branko. DFDE engines uses LNG and MGO. How you calculate consumption in voyage estimation?
Great question. I mean, we have diesel electric propelled vessels already, and we have a number of different setups for this. I mean, we basically utilize the same principle as for any other vessel. So we calculate. So underlying, we are calculating what amount of energy goes into basic loads, what goes into the propulsion, and so forth. So we, based on that, we our in our model, we can translate what that means into to emissions or costs. So the basis is often that our estimator is utilizing the starting point when you open a for specific vessel. It utilizes the fuel that and the fuel mix you're typically using. Of course, if you want to simulate it for another kind of fuel, you can do it. So you can be specific to say how much time for given voyage is LNG and how much was a MGO, and what should say be the split if you're looking at say the dual fuel operation, where you can operate on either of these or a mix. So typically having some kind of pilot fuel, of course, consumed even when using LNG.
Great, thank you. So we don't have any more questions in the questions tab, but we'll have a look in the chat and see if there's anyone that hasn't got a question answered. I see there's one. I got one message asking for another handout with the ENC online information, and I just added that up in the right-hand side, so you can also see the PDF with the information for the ENC online. And then we have another question popping in from Bo. He's asking, from your experience on the ETS market, do one expect the price to increase when the deadline in September is near?
Yeah, I think I mean there's a lot of speculation, and I think we can only call it speculation, and it's kind of also speculating in stock prices and so on, that it's kind of nobody can really exactly forecast. My expectation is that it would increase as you get towards closer to say end of a period. If there is, depending on the supply and demand, if you see that there's a lot of you could say companies that haven't acquired a sufficient amount of EUAs, which I would expect if they don't have a dashboard and something to monitor the overall fleet consumption and have some predictions of what they need at the end of the period. I would expect that there would be some that may be caught at surprise, and certainly needed. Many people that I've talked with in the industry, they're buying more on a voice by voice basis. I would expect when we get into Q2, Q3, people may look more into becoming more strategic in how they buy EUAs. But my understanding is right now that most are trying to buy on the go, voyage by voyage, with their exposure.
Great answer, thank you. As far as I can see, there's no further questions joining in the questions tab, and we're nearing up on time to complete the webinar also. So we'll just wait a minute to see if there's anything else that pops up. But thank you for a great presentation and also some questions answered directly. We really appreciate these webinars because it's a direct line to talk to customers and others that are interested in what we do. So we really appreciate comments and questions, and we will also reach out if there's any questions that wasn't fully answered. We will communicate to our sales department that if you're a customer, they will reach out to you and see if your question was fully answered and if there's anything else they can help with. So no further questions coming in, so I think we might conclude the webinar and say thank you for everyone who joined us from all around the world. And the next webinar will be announced some time in advance. We're not set time and date just yet, but there's a line of webinars coming up because there's a lot of things in the pipeline. So thank you, Jacob, for
You're
bringing us
welcome,
the
and
information.
thanks everyone for joining.
Yeah, and I can just recap also on the webinar recording will be available automatically after we conclude the live broadcast, and then also we will put one version on the website where I can add subtitles for the recording also. We have one question all in the end here from Branko again. We can take that, can't we?
Yeah.
Is it possible to have a trial period for voyage estimation?
Yeah, I mean it it's definitely possible to have a trial. I mean, it's covering you could say the full spectrum of what we call emission and CI. Yeah, it's definitely possible. It's the short answer. I mean, it covers, of course, collection of the emission data in the first place, and then you'll get access to voice estimator, EU allowances, and so on and so forth. But we are also happy to jump into a more specific, say, product demo to get an idea. But to see, you can say, estimates for your specific vessels, we're kind of required to set up some kind of reporting scheme or connection with the emission data. Yeah.
We have a couple of minutes available for us. I've seen there's another question coming in. Is there NOx and SOx data available in the system?
Yeah, we cover all kind of emission within the system. I mean, it's not related to the EU ETS as such, but if we look at the broader spectrum, yes, that's available. I mean, we can compute all the different emission types, also particulate matter and sort of methane, etc. So those are, you could say, available in the system. Yes.
All right, I'm seeing there's a few comments in the chat also. We can answer one from Catherine again. If we have a more in-depth leaflet about ENC online with more information, and I can connect you with our sales team, and they can reach out with more information regarding the ENC online because it's brand new and we would like to talk about it. And RJ asks, CO2 emissions for biofuel, will it be zero for purpose of EU ETS?
Yeah, I mean, yes and no. I mean, so far it has been with zero emission factors, but as far as I recall, on the regulation, it will not be like that going forward. So we have you could say, a different way to treat this going forward is instead of tank to wake, it would be in future, I believe it would be well to wake. Under EU, and IMO would still remain to use tank to wake. So under EU scheme, I believe that it will not be zero, and there will be a small factor because you're looking at the life cycle assessment of it, and not just from the fuel going on board until it's consumed on board. So I guess the short answer is not completely zero for EU. IMO, I believe that they still will use zero. So there will be kind of two different systems going forward in terms of emission factors for the two major emission reporting schemes.
Great, thank you, Jacob. We have one last question from Peter John. It's a rather long question, so I'll bring it up full screen. We're interested in receiving notifications or emails from your platform that provide real-time updates on the current status of our vessels, both at sea and in port. We specifically seek alerts for when a vessel arrives at anchorage or berth, when it departs, and in case of unexpected events, such as stopping in the middle of the sea. Can NavFleet incorporate similar real-time updates?
Yeah, we have these kind of notifications available in the system, and we're also making in one of the next coming releases, we would also have a more comprehensive notification system that could be tailored to facilitate even more user-specific requirements. So we have what is being requested here, and we would also have something doing even more than this going forward. Yeah.
Excellent. I see. Well, we're seriously running up on the deadline for ending the webinar. But again, thank you for posting questions. We love to see the engagement, and we will reach out to the ones that post specific questions and make sure they've been taken care of. So, right, I will just say thank you from our side. Thank you, Jacob,
Thank
for your
you.
presentation, and we'll see you on the next one.